Welcome to VSOW and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving deep into, well, a giant of comedy, isn't he? George Carlin.
Absolutely. One of the most revolutionary figures out there.
And our mission today is really to unpack his incredible life, look at how his comedy changed over time, his really groundbreaking work, and his legacy. And we're sticking strictly to the source material we've got here.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a journey through his many lives, as the sources put it. He had such a huge impact on language, comedy, free speech.
Definitely. It's much more than just jokes. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Manhattan. George Dennis Patrick Carlin, born May 12, 1937.
Right. And his early years in Morningside Heights, the Catholic schools like Corpus Christi, that really set a stage, didn't it? A pretty complex one.
How so?
Well, his high school time was turbulent. Bishop Dubois, Salesian, Cardinal Hayes, he dropped out after 2 years. And there was this strained relationship with his very religious mother. And that strict Catholic upbringing. It wasn't just background noise. You could almost see it as the foundation for his later deconstruction of everything. Society, language. It's like he was rebelling against all that imposed doctrine.
That makes sense. You see the seeds of the later rebellion there. It's interesting, though. At 17, 1954, he heads off to the Air Force as a radar tech in Louisiana.
Yeah, a bit of a surprising turn. But, while he was there, he got his high school equivalency.
Okay.
And crucially, he moonlighted as a DJ at a local radio station.
Yep.
So even in the military, you kind of see the performance bug was already there.
Right. So maybe not such a detour after all. It sort of nudged him towards the mic.
I think so. I mean, after he got out in 57, he went straight into radio, Texas, Boston, and that led pretty naturally into stand-up.
Okay.
Then in 59, he teamed up with a Texas newscaster, Jack Burns, a comedy duo.
Burns and Carlin. I know that name.
Yeah, they even cut an album in 63, Burns and Carlin at the Playboy Club Tonight. And apparently it was Lenny Bruce who helped them get spots on The Tonight Show with Jack Pear.
Wow. Lenny Bruce and The Tonight Show. That's big. How many times did he end up doing that show?
Get this. 130 appearances throughout his career.
130? That's staggering. Shows how early he hit, right?
Yeah.
Late 50s, mid 60s, he's making it solo, but the image, it's so different.
Totally. Mainstream guy. Short hair, skinny ties, doing sharp parodies, commercials, fast-talking DJs.
The hippy-dippy weatherman.
Exactly. That character. It was all pretty inoffensive, as the sources say.
Yeah.
Moderately successful. It's hard to square that guy with the Carlin we mostly remember.
It really is. So here's the big question. What happened? What caused that massive shift in the late 60s? He goes from Mr. Mainstream to this counterculture icon. It feels like a total transformation.
It absolutely was. And it was conscious. He talks about being disillusioned, entertaining what he called middle-class morons. He's seeing the protest marches, soaking up that whole counterculture vibe.
Right.
And he makes a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
Change the act, change the attitude, change the look. Long hair, beard. He just shed that whole polished image. It was like the first major reinvention.
Wow. So it wasn't just growing his hair out, it was deep. And the material, how did that change when he started talking about drugs, Vietnam? How did he make that work? Did his whole stage presence shift?
Oh, completely. The material went from, light observations to really biting social and political satire. Drugs, Vietnam, America's hang-ups about language and sex.
Yeah.
It wasn't just what he talked about, but how. There was a new edge, a real conviction.
So he saw himself differently, too.
Yeah, he started seeing the comedian as more than just an entertainer. Like a social commentator, a rebel, someone telling uncomfortable truths, poking at middle-class hypocrisy. You really hear it on albums like FM and AM and Class Clown. That's where that counterculture voice solidifies.
Okay, that pivot makes sense now.
Yeah.
Which leads us, I guess, inevitably to maybe his most famous piece of work. Certainly the most controversial. 7 words you can never say on television.
Right. Or filthy words.
What was he really trying to do with that routine? It seems like more than just shock value.
Oh, much more. The genius of it was how he sort of academically dissected language itself, how we decide certain words are bad or dangerous. He was satirizing that puritanical streak in America, questioning the almost irrational fear of just sounds, pointing out the absurdity.
And it definitely landed him in hot water.
Big time. He got arrested in Milwaukee in July 72 for performing it. That case got thrown out, but then...
And the radio broadcast.
Exactly. October 73, a New York station airs the monologue. Someone complains to the FCC, and that lights the fuse.
Which blows up into a huge First Amendment case, right? Federal Communications Commission v. Pacifica Foundation. Carlin's routine is right at the center of a Supreme Court decision.
Precisely. And in 1978, the court rules 5-4 for the FCC. It gives them the power to censor radio and TV, especially during hours kids might be listening.
Wow. So his routine directly led to tighter broadcast restrictions.
It did. It had a huge lasting impact on language in the media, and it really shaped the whole debate around broadcast censorship and First Amendment rights. It's a major landmark case.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? He uses words to challenge authority, and the authorities react in a way that just amplifies his point about the power of words. The sources mention his perverse pride in being a footnote to judicial history. What do you think that means? Was he aiming for that outcome?
I think for Carlin, the ultimate provocateur, that was a kind of victory. The controversy proved he was hitting a nerve, shaking things up. It wasn't a setback. It actually fueled his career, cemented him as this free speech warrior, whether he planned that exact outcome or not.
But he wasn't just about stand-up, was he? His career spread out everywhere. HBO, albums, books, even movies and TV. How did he manage that?
Well, the HBO specials are a huge part of his legacy, 14 of them. Just an incredible run. They really let him showcase his evolution, the changing themes.
And the first one was On Location. George Carlin at USC back in '77.
Right. And within those specials, you see these distinct phases. Like Carlin at Carnegie in '82. That was his comeback after some heart attacks. And you see more physical comedy starting to creep in there.
Interesting.
Then by What Am I Doing in New Jersey? In '88, he's fully embraced that angry old man persona that people really connect with. Another one of his performance lives, really.
Didn't he say Jammin' in New York from '92 was his personal favorite, like the perfect blend?
He did. He felt it hit that sweet spot between the political stuff and his classic observational humor.
And the later ones got pretty dark, didn't they?
Yeah, they definitely reflected his increasingly pessimistic view. Complaints and Grievances in 2001 that was originally called I Kind of Like It, when a lot of people die, but they changed it after 9/11. It's considered his angriest one.
Wow.
Then Life is Worth Losing in 2005 really digs into death, mortality, this kind of gleeful pessimism. And his last one, It's Bad for Yog in 2008 at age 70. Still incredibly sharp, examining all the bullshit, as he'd say, to the end.
Incredible output. And beyond HBO, the albums too. Over 20 of them. Plus Grammys.
Yeah, Grammys for AM and FM and Jammin' in New York. But others too, like Class Clown, Occupation, Fool, Toledo Window Box, and You're All Diseased in '99. That one was really scathing about American family life. Very profane, very direct.
And it wasn't just the 7 words. He had so many other classic bits people still quote, "A place for my stuff."
Baseball versus football.
Hello and goodbye. All that stuff about fuzzy language, euphemisms.
He was a master linguist in his own way, which probably explains why he was also a successful writer.
Right, the books. Brain Droppings in '97 was his first, wasn't it? A bestseller.
Yeah, New York Times bestseller. Just full of his thoughts on everything. Politics, religion, just everyday stuff that annoyed him.
And if you want the deeper story, there's the autobiography, Last Words, that came out after he died.
Plus Napalm and Silly Putty in 2001. And When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops in 2004. He really had a distinct voice on the page, too.
And then there's film and TV. He wore a lot of hats there, actor, writer, producer.
Voiceover artist, composer. Yeah, quite versatile. I mean, hosting the very first episode of Saturday Night Live in 1975. That's iconic.
Definitely.
And then, talk about range. He played Mr. Conductor on Shining Time Station for years.
Mr. Conductor, that's right. And he narrated Thomas the Tank Engine. Quite a shift from the 7 words.
Exactly. It's another one of those many lives.
He popped up in movies, too. Rufus in the Bill and Ted movies.
Yep. And Cardinal Glick and Kevin Smith's Dogma. Voiced Fillmore, the VW bus and Cars. Rolls an outrageous fortune. The Prince of Tides.
He even had his own sitcom for a bit.
Briefly, yeah. The George Carlin Show, 93 to 95. Didn't last long, but still.
Let's circle back to his persona for a second. You mentioned that shift in the '80s after the health scares and dealing with drug use, becoming more observational, physical, the curmudgeonly uncle or goofiest era. How did that phase then morph into the really hard-edged political stuff of the '90s and 2000s? It seems like another big turn.
It is interesting, isn't it? While the '80s might have seemed a bit lighter, maybe more observational by the '90s and especially the 2000s, he definitely tacked back, as the sources say, back to the hard-edged political commentary.
So the goofiness didn't stick.
Not really. He went back to railing against society. Everything from, environmentalism to what he saw as middle-class obsessions. He wasn't just a curmudgeon anymore. He was a full-on social critic again, but maybe angrier.
And that anger comes through in the later material. Very dark, very pessimistic, talking about death, humanity's failures,
Yeah.
saying he'd sort of given up on this whole human adventure. It sounds like genuine despair almost.
I think that's fair. It wasn't just pointing out flaws anymore. It felt like he was really lamenting the state of things. But it's important to remember that contrast with the final special. It's bad for Ya.
Right. You mentioned that.
Yeah, while it was still incredibly sharp, it kind of pulled back from some of the raw anger of the specials just before it. It went back to examining human behavior, calling out the bullshit in everyday life. It showed his wit was sharp as ever right up to the very end. A really powerful final statement.
When you look back at everything, his legacy, it's just immense, isn't it? Challenging authority, pushing free speech boundaries. His influence is still felt today.
Absolutely. You see his DNA in so many comedians who came after him, people like Joe Rogan, Jim Gaffigan, they often cite him. And that FCC v. Pacifica Foundation case, that alone secures his place in history. It fundamentally changed the conversation about language and broadcasting.
He wasn't just pushing envelopes, he was kind of tearing them up.
Exactly. He showed how powerful comedy could be, not just for laughs, but to question, to provoke, to actually expand what we even mean by free expression.
A true social critic, a cynic, questioning religion, politics, everything. It feels right that he got the Mark Twain Prize for American humor, even if it was just days before he passed.
It does. And, think about his overall perspective. There's that quote the sources highlight. If it's true that our species is alone in the universe, then I'd have to say the universe aimed rather low and settled for very little.
Wow. Yeah. Carlin in a nutshell, isn't it? Dark, critical, but also somehow funny.
Yeah, it captures that later perspective perfectly. A critique, but maybe with a hint of, I don't know, frustrated affection underneath it all.
Beyond the stage and the controversy, there was the man himself. Born May 12, 1937, parents Patrick Carlin and Mary Berry.
Mm-hmm. And he was married twice. First to Brenda Hosbrook in 1961. They had their daughter, Kelly, in 63. Brenda sadly passed away in 1997.
Okay.
Then he married Sally Wade in 1998, and they were together until he died.
And he certainly had his share of health struggles, those heart attacks, 78, 82, 91.
Yeah, and he had ongoing heart issues. Needed a special procedure, an ablation in 2003 for arrhythmia, and had significant heart failures starting around 2005.
Which ultimately led to his passing.
Sadly, yes. He died on June 22, 2008. He was 71. Died in Santa Monica from heart failure, which, given his history, wasn't entirely unexpected, but still a huge loss.
Looking back on this whole deep dive, it's just staggering, the depth of his contribution, comedy, culture. He really did live those many lives, always changing, always evolving.
Definitely. And his work still resonates, doesn't it? It still makes you think, still challenges norms. It proves comedy can be incredibly insightful, incredibly powerful. His voice is still very relevant.
Absolutely. We really hope this deep dive encourages you to go back and listen to Carlin, or maybe discover him for the first time. With this context, you might hear those routines in a whole new way. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please do subscribe, like, maybe leave us a comment. It really helps support the deep dive and lets us keep bringing you explorations like this one. Thank you so much for joining us today and for listening to VSOW.